Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about American Express and financial review. So, if you thought rewards abuse was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. So, we're going to talk about what is a financial review, why it happens, the process itself, and what you can do about it. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, first things first, when we talk about financial review, this is separate from the rewards abuse team that you might be familiar with. Rewards abuse is looking for, literally people doing manufactured spending, earning rewards in the way that Amex isn't comfortable with. Financial reviews are more so like a risk management tool, and the gist of it here is that credit cards operate on giving people a credit limit based off of stated income, which means when you fill out the application, you really just tell them, you state how much income you have, and they go with it. Yes, they do run a credit check, behind the scenes to pull a credit score, but still, you can probably get away with telling them, you make a lot of money before they start questioning things. I wouldn't, but, you can do it. So as a result, they really want to make sure they haven't extended too much credit to people who have no means to pay them back, because over time, obviously, it's just a losing business model. So with that, though, what exactly triggers one of these Amex financial reviews? Well, there's a few different things here that can kind of trip their system. Now, I will say before we go into this, I haven't personally seen one of these stories happen in quite some time. So these are more so data points of, people sharing the reasons they have tripped them for. So don't necessarily need to freak out just yet, but maybe some things to be aware of. So here we go. Triggers, ramping up your spend. So something like, hey, you usually only spend $2,000-$3,000 a month, and all of a sudden you're consistently spending like $10,000 in one go. Cycling your credit limit, bounced payments. Obviously, if you try to make a payment, it doesn't clear. It's going to cause concerns. Frequently checking the spend power of charge cards. Credit limits issued of $35,000 across all your cards. You can have like 4 or 5 credit cards from Amex. Credit limit of $25,000 on a single card, and large changes to your stated income. And you can see right there, the thing to remember is, these on their own aren't necessarily nefarious, but the problem is that banks don't get context with the reason you're doing things. For example, when people first found out about the spend power tool for the charge cards, people would check it all the time just to see how much money they could get, because it was kind of fun to see. The credit limits, I have one actual credit card with Amex, was the Delta Platinum, and that issued at $19,000 credit limit right off the bat. So you can see it's not that far away from 25, and even then, again, you can have 4 or 5 Amex credit cards that are different than the charge cards. So getting to $35,000 is really not that hard to do. So again, I wouldn't say these are nefarious, but because the bank doesn't get context, they don't necessarily know why you're doing this, and it could cause them, to get concerned. So what happens if you were to trigger a financial review? Well, of course, they're going to, from what I understand, we're borrowing from Points Guy article here, I'll link down below, where they basically talk to 2 people who went through this process. And what they're first going to do is they're going to freeze your account, right? Because they want to immediately limit their risk and their exposure. Now, I have seen it where they will leave you like $1,000 credit limit, so you're not totally out in the cold, because they don't totally want to ruin the relationship. And I have seen it where they will lock it down altogether. Now, it's also important to note they're also going to lock down your membership reward points balances or your cashback balances as well during this time, so you can't just grab your points and run away. And that sounds like something Amex would typically do. So we'll start with this. Here's the first letter you're going to get, or at least an example of it. So it's got Dear, of course, we blacked out the name. We are writing regarding your American Express accounts referenced above because we have been able to reach out to you by telephone. We're conducting a financial review of your accounts, and we have determined there are financial documents we need from you in order to complete your review. It is important that you call us at the number on the back of your card as soon as possible, so that we can discuss those documents required. If you fail to provide the documents required within 14 days of this date of this letter, we may take additional credit actions up to including cancellation of your accounts. We have placed a restriction on your accounts, and no further changes will be allowed till this matter is resolved. We look forward to hearing from you soon. So again, very serious, stern written letter there. In addition to that, you can see the screenshot in the account of the account actually being locked. Now, so that's what kicks off the process. So it sounds like they're going to call you, they're going to reach out in writing. Most banks always put something in writing either way. So let's say you go ahead and call in. Now, I understand that you will be assigned a specialist, so it's not even going to be a regular customer service. They'll probably transfer you to the spot where you need, and then you're going to get a specialist who's, on top of your case. Now, the gist of it is they're going to need financial documents to prove that you have the income that you say you do. And then as a result, there's going to be 3 different outcomes that we'll talk about. You can pass, you can kind of sort of pass, and then you can outright fail. So we'll talk about those. But first, we need to understand the documents. Now, the documents probably won't be that surprising. It could be something like bank statements to prove you have, cash on hand. Maybe if you have a bounce payment or something, that might work. Now, they could also ask for tax documents like, your whole last year's tax return or something, because that would show how much income you have. Because really what they're going to look at is there's a section on your tax documents called like adjusted gross income, and they're kind of trying to compare that to what you said you made last year, right? Or on your credit card application. So they'll go back through and say, hey, 2022, 2021, you made this much in AIG. What about, what did you actually say on your most recent application? Now, again, they're going to look at, when the application was submitted. So if it's a 4-year-old account, I don't think they're going to hold you to it. It has to be exactly the same. You would argue you should hopefully be making more than you were 4 years ago, but I think it's like we got to get at least close. They got to match up very close. Now, that's easy enough, but there's one more tax document that they could request, and I'll put an example on screen for you, but really this is, I would say, probably the most intrusive one, because this is a 4506T, which really what this form does, you fill it out, and then it allows the holder of it, in this case Amex, to request your tax information from the government on your behalf. Now, the reason they would do it like this is because, documents are actually surprisingly easy to fake if you have like an Adobe Pro application or membership, right? It's very easy to fake documents, right? So they would want you to fill that out, then they can go get it straight from the IRS. Now, a lot of people have problems with this because, you don't really want to share your tax information with a lot of people or a company. We don't really know. We assume Amex has the best of intentions as far as document protection and information protection, but things still happen, and not everyone is cool with that, right? So the next question before we get to the results here is, let's say you don't want to do that. What options do you have? Well, you don't really have any from the looks of it, right? Amex is going to quote the card member agreement. I'm sure there's a section in there about it, and they say, hey, if you fail to provide it, they're probably going to shut down your accounts. I don't think there's going to be like a way around it. Now, you could potentially get your credit limit reduced maybe, but I don't think they're going to start making exceptions for this just because people don't want to. You do not. It's one of those annoying phrases where it's like, no, we can't make you do it, but if you don't do it, then you've chosen the option of account shutdown type things, right? So that's that. On some level, it's very easy because it's only a few documents, but on some level, it's very hard because it's very personal information. It's kind of a pain. Now, with that, what are the 3 options? So let's say you go this route, you submit, everything they ask for, they review it, it matches up within reason. You pass, you're good to go. Accounts back open, membership reward points or cash back still active. No big deal. Now, there's another one here, like say it matches, this is really close but not exact, or they're still uncomfortable with it. Well, they can open your accounts back up, and maybe they just reduce some of your credit limit, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because you're still in the game, you still have your rewards cards and your points and all of that. So I'd call that a conditional pass. And then the third one is going to be an outright fail, is if you choose not to participate in this, or you way lied about your income, they can't help you out at all, or they feel offended or slighted, well, they're just going to shut your accounts down. And again, when Amex shuts your accounts down, they take all your points, right? Other issuers, sometimes they allow you 30 days to move out, basically. Amex doesn't do that. You'll lose like all your points and things like that, and I would assume you will be blacklisted from future cards and products of theirs as well. So overall, that's the financial review. Now, again, if we go back to the triggers and avoiding this, right? Some of them are going to be a little bit harder to avoid. You don't necessarily get to choose how much credit limit they issue you, but knowing again that 35K is kind of a number for them, I'm going to assume on the back end they're always trying to match it up and figure it out. If you think for whatever reason you're getting close to $35,000, you have a credit card that you just don't use with them, you can also consider closing it before you get another one. You can also remember that Amex has rules on credit cards. You can only have like 4 or 5 cards to begin with, so it's not entirely possible or that you would need to do that anyways to kind of rotate through their cards, through their credit cards, right? Now, in addition to that, the biggest one here is just don't lie about the amount of income that you make on applications. Now, I can be honest, do I ever really sit down with like a file, with a pen, paper and pen, and say, well, how much did I make from work? How much did I make from YouTube? How much? No, I try to get it close as possible, right, just off the top of my head, but you wouldn't want to make something egregious that you definitely can't even back into. That's really the main thing that you can do with this one. But overall, I don't think it's that ridiculous of a process given how much information we automatically give Amex and other card issuers anyways when we sign up. But again, I understand, how people might not care for this one. I think it's a little bit intrusive. So anyways, guys, that's been it for this one. So if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, of course, consider subscribing to the channel. It's posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Of course, we're right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. My question for you guys, of course, let me know if you've gone through a financial review process before with Amex or what you think about this. Is this over the top asking for these documents? Are they justified? Love to hear your thoughts on this one. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.